Happy Friday, everybody. That last video there always makes me smile. Team Edwards Squadron Throwdown. I'm really excited for that, and I know you are as well. I don't know if we were unmuted when Chief Swiss said it or not, but here's that video again. Every time he sees it, he gets pumped.
I do.
So I'll throw down that if you are interested in putting together a team, squadron levels are the ideal place to do it. Squadron level team to compete in that. I predict that's going to be a recurring brag trophy as that operationalizes and moves out. So I'm excited about it. So happy Friday, Chief.
Yes,
Glad
sir.
to be here.
Yes, sir. I am too. It is a wonderful Friday.
Yes.
And a short week.
It was, well, so it was 3 days. I'm not sure how short it felt, but yes. Friday, the 7th of July. For those of you that missed it on Monday, the 3rd of July, you missed, in my experience, literally hands down the best summer bash that I have ever experienced at Edwards, and probably like national level fireworks show.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe better than some national level.
Yes, and I mean I've seen a couple on the National Mall, and those are, I think the venue there is tremendous to watch fireworks over the National Mall. But the show was like that caliber. Yes, on Monday night, just after sunset at Wings Field was the primary viewing location, but I'm sure you saw it all over the base and maybe even around the valley if you got to see that as part of Summer Bash. So congratulations again to FSS for pulling that off. Not that it was a stretch for them, because that's just what they do. They're really good at that. Yes, sir. Thank you all that showed up. Wings Field wasn't standing room only, but it was pretty full.
It was pretty close to standing room only. Yes,
1,700, sun still up, still 100 plus, and the wind blasting. It was a little sparse.
Yes.
Hour later, bang! There's now hundreds of people on the field. The private org booths were awesome, and the sponsors there also fantastic sponsors that we had as well. I'm gonna pick on you a little bit and say, down the private org path, what was the one thing that sticks in your brain most? Whether it was something you ate or swag you bought or a unique idea, what was it for you?
Oh my gosh, there was so many awesome things out there. What was really cool, it was the fried Oreos. That was interesting. And they
dueling
had
fried Oreos.
Yes, dueling fried Oreos. And I had a member from AMXS. He was just emphatic about, he's like, buy something for me. You don't have a, so we had some people out there just really showing face really well. And, other than getting a little bit of, money for their private orgs, they were out there helping support and make it a great event. So it was important to see them out there.
Yeah, my teammates in the booth are going to back me up on this, but I believe that the private org there that had a line was the Air Force Ball Committee.
Yes, sir. They did.
And I was thrilled to see that, and their menu was impressive, including something that I had literally never seen before: apple nachos.
I didn't see that.
You did?
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe you missed apple
it.
nachos. So in the booth, back me up on that. I think it was apple nachos at the Air Force Ball Committee. Apple nachos, I'm not going to tell you what they were, but other than to tell you they were amazing. Yes, and they had a whole bunch of wings as well, which is a heck of a combination. So, all right, it was great, and that was Monday. Happy birthday, America! 247th on Tuesday, and then here we are the Friday immediately after that. With a couple wows. So, Chief, I'll let you tee up our Warriors of the Week here, and then we'll get over to them.
All right. First up, we have Staff Sergeant Kyle Henson from Security Forces. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm Sergeant Henson. I've been in about 7 years in the Air Force. Security Forces was my choice as AFSC. I absolutely wanted to do it.
Awesome.
Fell in love with it. Had a lot of great opportunities as Security Forces, from flyaway security to being a training NCO now, and getting to train the future of our Air Force and teach them how to do the job and do the job right. And
that's right. Training our replacements, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it's about. Absolutely.
So Edwards, not your base of accession, true?
Say again, sir?
Did you go through the training pipeline and end up at Edwards, or did you have another base before that?
My third duty station now, actually.
Okay, and what were the other two?
It's at Osan Air Base there for a year, and then I went over to Ramstein, worked there, and enjoyed the beast.
Yeah, holy cow, brother. That's So when people say, I want to join the military or the Air Force to see the world, they're talking about your career.
Yes.
Right? You go to the Indo-Pacific Theater. Osan is a fantastic location. And Ramstein, holy cow, Germany for a while.
Yes.
Huge mission there. And then you end up working in the future Air Force here at Edwards. That's a very, very impressive and I don't know, I'm jealous. Those are awesome 3 first duty assignments.
It's been awesome.
Cool. I'm not going to ask you to pick your favorite because I know you have favorites for different reasons. But I have been stationed at 2 and spent many time at the 3rd, and I got lots of fond memories from all those locations. All right. Anybody online or anybody on the base that might see this later that you want to give a shout out to, or maybe you want to call them out?
My wife Angela, I appreciate you. I love you. Do everything for our family, our kids. Mom, Dad, if you guys see this, love you guys too. Austin, brother. Hope you guys are all having a good Friday. Miss you guys. Hope you're all doing well today.
The kiddos too?
Yep.
They're going to be pretty excited to see you on TV, I'm telling you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Let me forget.
or in a few years.
Yeah, in a few years. Oh, that's my dad. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great stuff. So, what is something that when you got to Edwards, you said, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea and maybe it's not security forces, but the big we at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe that we did, that you're like, holy cow, we do that."
So going from Ramstein, where like you are the mission, sending the mission downrange, and like you're actively taking weapon systems or the future down there, and then coming here and just seeing when we're retrofitting these aircraft, making them that next generation, and just seeing those capabilities, that knowing that they come from here, or I didn't know that, so it gives you a little bit more appreciation for what we're doing, or these next generation bombers we're building down here, all that kind of stuff, and just gives you a more appreciation for what we do as defenders, because we're always out there guarding these planes, doing the job, but now we understand why we're doing the job a little bit more, and getting to show the airmen the why behind it, and getting them to understand it and see it firsthand.
And that's awesome. Understand that why is so powerful, right? I've stand in front of your formations quite a few times over at Security Forces, and I've told them that, we can't do what we do here if we know we're not safe, right? Up to and including folks like us here that have our families that live on base. That's not even a worry in my mind, where they're at and if they're safe on this base, and that's directly from your efforts in Security Forces Squadron to make sure that we can do that. And it's huge. And understanding that and proliferating that understanding to the levels below you, that the people you're bringing up to be the next you, is powerful. So that's awesome to get that, and that's what you've taken from this time. So
Yeah, I'll give you an example that your squadron has an impact on the entire community, not just those that are on the flight line or on the base, but our mission partner, the school district here, Mira Joint Unified School District, they have 2 large campuses, and the population on our campus on base is always full because parents are asking for intra-district transfers onto base. The facilities are newer, yes. I would argue the teachers that work here are probably a slight cut above what we have in other places in the district, but they're all solid across the district. We just don't have enough of them. So if you're a techer and you want to come work for Mira Joint Unified,
yes,
and I guarantee Kevin Cortez would love to have you, and the principals would too. But it doesn't take long to surface that on-base schools have a lower incidence of violence and a lower incidence of drugs and a lower incidence of all those things, and that is because of you and your squadron and folks like you, because the principals and the superintendent know if they got an issue, they can, hey, would you guys bring a dog by?
Yeah.
Hey, could you bring the patrol by? Whatever, and you have a lot to be proud of, and it directly impacts the students that are on the installation as well. You may not know this. I don't know if you know this yet, and I don't think it's you because it's 2 tech sergeants, but your other boss
Yes, sir.
told me recently that we are standing up to a school resource officers
Yes, sir.
that are going to be in the schools there too. So another great partnership between the security forces and the base. Cool. You got a lot to be proud of.
Thank
All right,
you.
we're going to bounce to the other WOW, and then you get to think about what you're going to grill Chief on. Okay, you ready?
Give you some time to think
All
about
right. So, it says you go by Arthur, and I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but I'm going to guess Galindo.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Galindo.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
As I walked in the studio today, I saw a whole bunch of people on the back wall, and I recognize you. Who are you here for? And you got the whole team here.
Yeah, I got my fan base here.
You got your fan base.
Yeah.
I love it. So that means a lot, and I know it means a lot to them to be able to see you like this. For the record, he's blushing just a little bit. It may not show on camera, but he is. So you are you're an aircraft maintainer.
Yes.
So why don't you tell? It isn't just people that wave the pilots out of the chocks or put gas in the jets. There's a whole bunch in the aircraft maintenance world that make our
Yeah,
aircraft
it's-
operate.
it's
And I
endless.
think you're one of the ones that are the hidden professionals or that aren't on the flight line all the time. So tell us a little about what you do in the maintenance group.
So I'm an electrical and environmental craftsman for the KC-135, as well as the C-17. So it's broken down between crew chiefs and specialists. I'm on the specialist side. Most people often see the crew chief, and they're like, "Oh, that's a maintainer," and that's what you see with the Thunderbirds and just different aircrafts. But the specialists do all the nerdy stuff, if you would. So we do electrical maintenance, environmental systems, and then there's other AFSCs that it's like speaking a foreign language. They talk in acronyms, so there's comm-naving and guidance and control, and then there's Higer, which is kind of like a crew chief. But we're such a small team that we kind of just help out each other, because for a while we'd be the one respective specialist for our specific AFSC, because on the flip side we have civilians working with us, and then for the green suiters, the military guys and gals, they are the specialists. So a lot of the times, for instance, a job that may take me 3 of my specialists, I then have to pull from the other respective AFSCs and, hey, could you give me a hand with this? And they'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, don't worry, we'll get you there. And same thing with me helping them out. Like, I don't know how to do a tire change, but I'll be out there helping them out and making sure that the jet continues on with our missions that we have here.
Yeah, so I don't have your SIR for your record in front of me, but I'm going to guess arriving as a specialist is the 7 level. You arriving from another
Yes.
location. So where
Yes.
were you on? And it was 135s prior, right?
No,
You picked up C-17s here.
135s is at MacDill, so that was my first duty station.
Okay.
And then I was actually at Osan. We may have overlapped, but I was in Osan as well for 2 years, and then I wanted to get closer to family. So ideally, I would like to be down at March, but can't get everything. But Edwards is about 2.5 hours away from where family resides. They're very close to March Air Force Base.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So you said MacDill.
yeah, MacDill. That was my first base.
So my first question for you is least favorite: earthquakes or hurricanes?
I would say hurricanes, because there was more hurricanes over there than I've experienced earthquakes here.
Yeah.
I actually got excited when there was an earthquake. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Did he just say that? He did.
And I was like, there's an earthquake, and I texted everybody in our family group, and they're like, no, there wasn't. I was like, yes, there was. And I hadn't experienced an earthquake in like 8 years at that time. So it was a good reassurance that I was back home in California.
Yeah. My freshman year in LA as a college student, first semester of freshman year, I'm in a class and my chair starts shaking like the person behind me has put their foot on the chair and it starts shaking the chair, and half of us in the class look around like, what is that? What are they doing to me?
Yeah.
And the professor stops whatever they were teaching and says, "Welcome to Southern California."
You have arrived.
Yeah, because it was a low level earthquake. Everybody paused and we just kept on going. And it's interesting how fast you adjust, and I didn't notice them after that. Kind of like sonic booms
Yep.
around this place. So great stuff.
That actually got me the first time I was staying here. I was in the hotel and getting acclimated to the area, and then I just heard a loud boom, and the hotel shook, and I was just like, what was that? What are we doing here?
Yeah. It's there was 2 earlier this afternoon. One that I heard was a good one, and the second one happened, and I didn't even recall it. So I was on the phone with somebody at my house, and I heard the dogs barking in the background. I'm like, why are the dogs barking? You didn't hear the sonic boom? I guess not.
Yeah, we've become inoculated to it, I think, in a way.
Yes.
It's normal.
Yes, absolutely. So, what was kind of the same question I asked Sergeant Henson? What is something that you got here knowing what you were likely getting into, but still, I'm sure there was a few things that you went, wow, we do that here?
Well, I knew the tanker had a good part of like the stuff that was going on and all the refueling testing that is going on. What was kind of new to me was the C-17 side. And the benefit about being A&E is you're not tied to one specific airframe, so you can bounce around. But for the C-17 and their involvement with testing for NASA and doing the parachutes and all that stuff, that was kind of an eye opener. Like, whoa, I didn't know we had any part of that. So that was cool.
Yeah. So what Arthur's talking about is the C-17s that you helped generate, and have you deployed with them to any of those locations?
I did. I
you go?
deployed down in Yuma, and
Okay.
we were doing the tub drop.
Yes. You were doing something Dragon was the name of the
I don't remember.
the name,
So
the name of
many.
the project. I can't remember. Rapid Dragon, I think
Yes,
was
I
the
think so.
thing. And but yeah, our C-17s, and sometimes it's not plural, sometimes it's one, but the C-17 crews and the maintenance teams are doing stuff that nobody else in the C-17 universe does.
Yeah.
To include things like push Orion capsules out the back to test the parachute systems, and that's one of the things you talked about. It's a great partnership with OSS here.
Yep.
In addition to our other partners, we do all kinds of testing for the missile defense agencies that the C-17s are a part of, to include other palletized munitions, and I can go on and on and on. I assume that was a slight surprise to you that
Yeah.
we did all that stuff.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and just the small tests that they have going on that is just like, why are we doing that? And then it kind of just pieces kind of come together like a puzzle.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think it's impressive, and I learned something new about what we accomplish here on a weekly, certainly, and sometimes a daily basis. So I'll ask you two one quick question, and then you guys can fire back at us.
Alrighty.
Okay?
Yeah,
You
I'm
ready?
ready.
You
Yes,
ready?
sir.
Okay.
Ready.
So it's a simple question, and we'll go reverse order. What next? And you can say what next assignment, what next career, what next. No time frame. You decide what next.
What next would probably be getting back into school and studying for tech for the next round.
Okay.
I would say that would be my upcoming goals for the future.
Okay. How about you start, Hanson?
For me, it's a deployment.
Like
Getting ready
one's ready and you know you're going,
Yep,
or you
absolutely.
leaving for the 24.1 rotation, like September-ish
Yep.
time frame?
So,
Cool.
getting ready
I
for
am
deployment.
not going to set you up and ask you where you're going, because that is not something we're
Yeah.
broadcasting
No.
around here. But do you know how big the team is you're a part of?
Yes. It's going to be a good time. A
Good.
lot of great airmen we're going to get the opportunity to lead and take down their experience deployment together.
Is that your first one or second?
So it'll be my 2.5, I'm going to call it.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Deployed in.
I got to hear about the half of deployment story
So
sometime.
my half is Holloman. So Task Force Holloman when that happened.
Gotcha.
As a deployment, reset the counter, but I looked at it as like mobilization is the way I look at it.
Right.
Great mission we did. Got to help a lot of people, change lives for the better, and
It was
just
an OAW mission to Hellman. that you
Yes,
did.
sir.
Sweet.
awesome mission.
Good stuff. All right. We're officially reversing the tables. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I guess leadership question then for both of you. Go back to like Second Lieutenant Higer and Airman Swistak. What's something that you guys wish you knew when you came in the Air Force for our junior airmen or junior officers out there?
Boy, we don't have enough minutes left in the broadcast
Absolutely not.
for me to do that. You got one that pops, Chief?
I do, and I think I've been asked this before. I think in this seat, and I think what I would say is relish that time, right? Let it soak in. Not that when you get higher you shouldn't let it soak in, but it's just relishing the time of being that young airman, maybe without other things that are tying you down, family and kiddos and stuff, and have fun, right? And don't forget about taking care of yourself. It's much more difficult in many ways to focus on education and all the other things that are given to you as you progress in rank. But when you're young and kind of alone and having fun, right, and learning your job, focus on education. Things like bettering yourself is easier just because you have more time. But bottom line, let it soak in and have fun. That would be
That would be your advice to your
myself.
two-stripe self?
Yes.
Okay. So you said second lieutenant. Full candor, my second lieutenant time was all in the pipeline.
Okay.
So they had flipped to silver by the time I made it to my first operational unit, which was OSA, by the way.
Awesome.
If I go back and look at that, then one piece of advice I would give to that person, and you could probably put this in the what would you like to have known. It wasn't until much later in career where I developed this philosophy of I would hear about a decision or hear about some action or something along those lines, way up the chain, and I would throw out the, man, that's ridiculous, X, Y, and Z. It took me a while to appreciate the fact that I had to, like, remember the easy buttons from Staples, the red easy button? So I in my mind, I labeled an I believe, and I would have to, I don't understand that decision. So I would pull out the virtual I believe button, and I'd push the I believe button, and I'd say, I believe that if I knew everything that decision maker know and had experienced and knew, that I would arrive at the same decision. Or at least I believe that if I had everything that decision maker knew, I could at least understand the decision. Because a lot of times what frustrated me, and I think what frustrates a lot of, I observe it a lot in captains, but especially majors, they're about the 10-year mark in service. They have a tremendous appetite for decisions and speed and knowledge and getting after everything, but there's still a tremendous amount of unknown unknowns that they don't have any real appreciation or awareness of. Mm-hmm. And holding down the virtual I believe button for me as a first lieutenant through major, I think would have saved me a crazy amount of frustration. And as I have learned more, progressing past then, I'm like, wow, I don't think anybody is aware of this. And so that's my thought. And how do you take that forward and how do you implement that? You say, when you see that person or somebody in that chair, hey, talk to me about the Air Force's decision on this. What are your thoughts, or what context do you have on that? And that's a way to pull out the learning so you can take your hand off that I believe button. Is that?
Yes.
That help? Okay.
Absolutely.
Does that answer the question? All right.
Yes.
Go ahead. We'll have the same answers. Go ahead and ask any question you want.
My question is in regards to quality of life. I think people have kind of asked about it a lot, but they've been shy. So a lot of people don't think that the base is intertwined with 3 different counties, and I was like, nope, it is, like, trust me. So I guess the question is there any type of COLA, or is there any evaluations for housing allowance to kind of like keep up with the housing market in California, or even if there's a gas stipend, that would be nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand him the I believe button. Right? The answer is absolutely to your question. One of the things that Swiss's immediate predecessor and I finally had an aha moment in that a lot of our, we were preparing to deliver basically an immersion brief to General Richardson and Chief Flossie on General Richardson's first tour through Edwards, and a lot of the topics that are COLA and housing prices and BAH and assignments, and you can run the list. TLE, lodging expenses, I mean, you can literally run the list. What we typically do is we see a specific topic and we try to fix that one item. When in fact, what is a broader, one step back, broader, actual, maybe not the root cause, but certainly one of the root causes, is that there's just a fundamental lack of understanding of what it's like to live and operate and lead at a remote and isolated installation in CONUS.
Yes.
We give a lot of credence. You been on the Rock ever? I don't think so.
No, sir.
Yeah, but the 3 of us have OSAN experiences. OSAN and people at OSAN, but especially at Kunsan, they get a lot of considerations for quality of life and other things like that because they're remote OCONUS.
Yep.
Right? The same considerations do not apply yet to remote and isolated CONUS. There's a law that was handed to the Secretary of Defense 2 years ago that said, figure out what you're going to do to better support remote and isolated CONUS installations, all services. That has turned into a Department of Defense instruction that then we are now literally at the Department of the Air Force level writing out the initial version of that guidance on here are the considerations and the extra quality of life issues and so on and so forth that will be applicable to all of the remote and isolated locations. So we don't play whack-a-mole on a topic.
Yeah.
As the installation, you fight to get on the list, and then if somebody on the list needs to change policy or get an exception, then it's not just applicable to that base, it's applicable to everybody on the list. And so an example of that is that right now at remote and isolated CONUS installations, we get a different cash infusion and what's called a ratio test for our non-appropriated funds accounts. So if we go negative at the club, we don't have to shut it down. If we go negative at the golf course or the aero club or the bowling alley, whatever, we don't have to shut it down. because we are remote and isolated at zip code 93523. And so that's one little example in the 65 series AFI, but that can easily broaden and grow to include things that would include all the lists I just talked about and anything else you can imagine. That's a long haul, but I think they'll be permanent and they'll be pretty enduring. So that is, I'm excited about that, but that's a long road. We'll probably be a third to a halfway through that journey when you enter in the senior NCO ranks, and we may be complete by the time you're a chief. But it's about that.
I hope it's sooner.
No, I think that's a realistic time horizon. But we at least know where to go now, and that's a big thing. And it is almost exclusively quality of life issues. And our talking points right now on those generally revolve around Mrs. Brown's 5 and Thrive topics. And I can go on the rest of the broadcast and more.
Yes, sir.
On what we're getting after there. But that's a great one. Chief, I'll just cut it there for time. And I'll pass on a thank you to you too. So thank you for being awesome. Warriors of the Week are nominated positions, and so a lot of people in your chain thought you were worthy of this call out, little red facing. And a lot of people that are watching online or watching in the studio are also very proud of you, just as we are.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for doing everything you do to help the mission along here at Takata 2 every day. And then go back and take to the team, especially to the junior airmen or the first term airmen, that there's a big Air Force. And just between your relatively short careers, to Chief and I relatively short, look at what you've seen and what you've done and where you've been, and that question of what next, they need to hear that question and your answers too. So thanks, guys. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
All right. Okay, so we're going to rotate out to our next topic. Chief, I got to plead a little ignorance here, and I don't remember the exact lineup.
Yes, sir.
So it looks like we're going to talk about the Veterans Service Office.
Yes, sir.
As the next topic, or Veterans Service Office / organizations. A lot of folks don't realize that there are some serious benefits to you that you are accruing by just wearing the uniform.
Yes, sir.
And
There is.
most folks don't really get a deep dive into that until they attend their Transition Assistance Program course, which is one of the things that is by law mandated for everyone leaving service. Whether you're a first termer or you're somebody retiring after mid-20s or at 30 years, transition assistance programs are something that highlight. And that is usually where people find out about what veteran service offices and organizations have and are available to do for you. To talk a little bit more about what that is, so maybe it can be on this side of your TAP program, we have a couple folks. If you could swap the camera over here. So Mr. Rob Kessler is somebody that has been with us in this current role for, is it almost 2 years now, Rob?
1 year, sir. One
Yeah.
year, like last week.
1 year last week. It just took us a year to get you here.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct, sir.
So in his day job, Rob Kessler is a CESOL. It's a Civilian Employee Support Liaison. We had a term that we are walking away from, so I'm not going to say that term. But think about Rob as someone that's if you were a civilian and Rob has a wingman, and her name is Whitney, and I've drawn a blank on Whitney's last name.
Sparks.
Whitney Sparks. Thank you. Rob and Whitney are a 2-ship that should actually, they're filling the roles of about a 6-ship right now.
Oh, yeah.
But if you have a question about, hey, I don't know where to go or I don't know where to turn, whether it's a approaching crisis, if it's an actual crisis, call 911 or 988, please. 911 or 988. If it's approaching that, you don't know where to go or what resources are available, and you're either not getting that from your supervisor or your chain of command, then Rob and Whitney are around and available to do that. And there's a lot more to what they do, but that's an example. Conversely, commanders and directors that have a lot of civilians in an organization can also ask you for thoughts and ideas. And there's a little bit of hybrid there. And one of those things that you're here today to talk about, so I'll let you introduce him, is our Veteran Service Office. So Rob, over to you.
Yes, sir. So one of my roles is making sure that we have resources here inside of the wing for civilian employees, and really the whole wing is all together. And one of my big things was trying to get somebody from the county VSO onto the team here at Edwards once a month. And so Keith has been nice enough to dedicate his time to assist Team Edwards. So Keith is a VSO out of LA County,
Yes.
and I'll pass it to you, Keith.
I'm based out of the Antelope Valley Veterans Center in Palmdale. I've been with the office with the department now for a little over 8 years, servicing the Antelope Valley. I have been down here before. In the past, I have done TAPS with our CalVet representative, Anthony Rodriguez. So I'm a little familiar with the base here down here. COVID, put a damper into our plans for a little bit, but now Mr. Kessler has me out here. So once a month, the first Friday of every month, I'll be down here to help service our veterans filing disability claims. So as a veteran service officer, our goal is to help provide services, filing disability claims, pensions, appeals, obtaining benefits as far as enrollment to VA healthcare, addressing questions for other benefits like education, GI Bill, Veterans Rehabilitation Employment Services. Another aspect is our state benefits that we offer through CalVets, and that is the college tuition fee waiver benefits for veterans, for our disabled veterans, for their children, so that their kids can go to school, college. Also putting veteran on our California driver's license, as well as the disabled placards on registration vehicles as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to put a mark on the driver's license and veteran thing, because that'll be a nice tie-in to our next topic.
That's right.
But so I'm gonna real quick say one of the ironies about being a chief or being a senior officer is that we all the time are advising people on, hey, as you go into retirement, make sure that you.
Yes.
And the irony there is that by definition, neither one of us have done it. So now I'm
Bad
going to look at
examples.
Rob and go, hey, Rob, think back to when you were a little bit less facial hair and a lot more stripes on your uniform than flowers. I like the shirt, by the way. You
Thanks,
pull that
sir.
off. I can't.
Appreciate it.
What did you not know, think, 3 to 5 years before retirement, that you wish you'd know now that somebody like Keith here would have been super beneficial to help you with?
Yeah, so a lot of times we don't do a good job taking care of ourselves. We don't do a good job going to the clinic when we're hurt, when we should. I wish that I would have taken more time to take care of myself when I was active duty, and made it a little bit easier when I came to this point, or when I came to that point in my life to file that VA claim.
Who did you go to? Who was your VSO as you retired?
I didn't have a VSO, sir. I was in Korea, and we didn't have VSOs in Korea, so I had to do it on my own.
Did it all yourself?
I did.
Wow. Now, for those of you that don't realize it, if you end up, no matter how you end up applying for your initial, and what we're really talking about here, one of the things VSOs do that's very large that we all do is our VA medical eligibility, or VA disability rating. And that's a big thing. There are many other topics, but that is one that we will all do.
Yep.
If no matter how you apply for your initial one, you can always apply for updates or appeals or,
Yes.
or things like that. And so, A, be very, very, you are very fortunate to have someone in our community like Keith and your counterparts. Generally speaking, those folks are not employed, they're not employed by the VA, they're employed by other organizations.
County.
Yep, in
Los
your
Angeles
county,
County,
but there
yes.
are places like Disabled American Veterans and other places like that actually dedicate some of their resources at veteran service officers.
Yes, of course.
As well. So talk to us real quick. So Rob walks into your office, knock, knock, knock. Hey, Keith, I applied by myself and I think I left a few things out. What's your advice to him?
So important thing is we look at DD 214, we start with that. Of course, if the veteran does not have that, I'm not going to stop them there. I'm going to still sit down and discuss, go over their information, see what they're trying to file a claim on, and go from there and assist them. If the veteran had already filed a claim, number one goal is to see, I have access to the VA system through VBMS, so I can check on status of claims, and if we're already representing the veteran, I can pull up their information in the system, looking at their ratings, seeing if there's anything else we can help them file with, or file increases on their ratings. If not, we have to do a change of POA form, so CalVets or California Department of Veterans Affairs can represent the veteran. That way, and then we'll do an intent to file as well, to protect their pay date. So the VA will give them 1 year to put in a claim if we're not ready to get going on that claim just yet, and that gives the veteran ample time to develop evidence. So we're going to go over everything, work out how to develop the claim, whether we're looking at an increase, new claim, or an appeal on a denied claim, and start working on that process to advocate and develop that claim, give them information, guidance on how to develop that claim.
Yeah, I will tell you that, Rob, I suspect you're similar here. Don't give up on the process. Continue to work through the process. I'm very closely affiliated with a veteran of the Air Force, and that veteran's advice to me is get it in your records.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Get it in your records. Get it in your records.
Very important.
And even if it doesn't end up with any type of a rating, there's at least, if something were to surface later, that there is some type of triggering event or medical records location that you can go back to potentially
Yes.
argue that it was service affiliated, even if it wasn't directly service caused. A great example of that is if you injure a shoulder or your back or something, but you completely recover, making sure that is in your record as that portion of your back was potentially injured or damaged, so that 3, 5, 8, 10 years from now, when you have some discs that start eroding, that is at least an example of a connection.
Yes, sir.
So get it in your records. Get it in your records. I've heard that a lot, and it very much applies to me. So any other piece of advice, Rob, that you would tell the folks, or Keith, you too, that are, again, 3 weeks to 3 years from becoming in your status, Rob?
No, sir. Just go to the doctor, just like you just said. Get it in your records. Take care of yourself. That's more of a reason to do it, is to take care of yourself. But just make sure you go to the doctor.
Yes, and it's very important, as you mentioned, sir, document everything. Don't wait, don't hold on, don't say, I can deal with this later. Document any little injury you have, because that little injury can turn into something major down the line. But make sure you document everything. Exposures, another big important one is exposures to toxic chemicals, burn pits, especially for our veterans who came back from Iraq, Afghanistan, or anywhere in the Southwest Theater of Operations. Document anything regarding burn pits. If you have any respiratory problems, please get seen for that. The PACT Act was recently passed by Congress and signed by the President last August 10th, and the VA has recognized 23 new medical conditions regarding burn pit and toxic exposures. So it's very important you get everything documented on your records, so that way we can help you getting your ratings that you deserve.
Yeah, I'll pile on a couple things there. Keith said, I've been talking, get it in your records, and the implication there's medical records. But your actual, when were you deployed, how long were you deployed, where were you deployed, if it's disclosable. Sometimes when you were downrange it wasn't, but now it is, so you can retroactively say, yes, I went to an undisclosed location, but later you can talk about it. So go back and historically update where you were and when you were there. Make sure your declarations have the right location and dates on them. That's another source of records. Get it in your records, kind of things. So question in from the team, and before I ask the question, I was remiss, Chief. I didn't tell everyone, hey, if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, anything else that you want to get to us to address during the broadcast, that number is 707-412-8922. 707-412-8922. There it is. If we can't get to it on air today, or we don't know the answer, we will post it at a future town hall. And our next segment is actually one of those perfect examples, another teaser there. For driver's license, something we couldn't answer before, everybody's getting excited. So one of the questions that did pop in here, Keith, if someone wants to schedule an appointment with you or one of your peers, how do you recommend they get a hold of you or any of your teammates?
So you may reach me by my work cell phone number at 213-653-8437. You can also call the Antelope Valley Veterans Center at 661-267-1026. And the front desk there has the access to my Wait While system, and they can schedule appointments for veterans that need to see me.
So if they wanted to, repeat the numbers real fast, and then if they wanted to Google something, it would be Antelope Valley Veterans Center?
Antelope Valley Veterans Center,
Okay,
yes.
and then what are the numbers again that you want people to track you down at?
My work cell is 213-653-8437, and the Veterans Center's contact number is 661-267-1026.
Okay, and again, it's Keith, and we appreciate that greatly.
Thank you, sir.
Rob, anything you want to
Yes, sir.
close out with, or that we've left out?
Yeah, and for scheduling appointments, if it's here where Keith's coming monthly, I'm keeping the appointment book for that.
Great.
I don't know my phone number like Keith does off the top of my head, but I think that Nicole put it on the screen a little while ago.
And you may also contact me by work cell. If you need to schedule an appointment here, I'll make sure to let Mr. Kessler know, and that way we'll make sure we get him scheduled.
Yeah, so if you're wearing a uniform today, you know who your first sergeant is.
That's right.
And if you don't, you know who your first sergeant is, right? So contact your shirt, and the shirt will have all of the other first sergeant's numbers, and they'll also have both Whitney and Rob's numbers, because while those two are not the same exact jobs, they certainly run in packs. And that's a good way to contact anyone. And you can also call the command post, ask for the first sergeant on duty to get the handoff to the handoff. You can walk into the No Wrong Door building, which they've renamed and I don't like, so I don't remember the new name. It's building 2670 across the street from Chapel 1. Hey, I want to talk to a CESL. CESL, Civilian Employee Support Liaison. They can hand you off. Any of the chaplains can hand off. and your physical office is in the in building 1600.
Building
right?
1600, sir, across from Mary's place in the gym, right upstairs.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Where does Whitney hang her hat when she's sitting in her office?
The T and G building, I believe, upstairs.
Sweet. Yeah, so I think that's enough. And that number that we just flashed on the screen for those of you watching, that was Rob's cell phone number, his duty cell.
Yep.
All right. Happy Friday, you two.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
sir.
everything you do to care for everybody.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
While we're setting up here for our next couple on screen, there's some advertisement slides, and
Yes,
I
sir.
keep giving the FSS crowd a big shout out. So if you want to get to the ones we haven't hit, one of them is First Friday,
It's today.
which is today. Yes,
sir.
indeed. So call up those ads for us there in the booth. First Friday at the club is today. It is also 4 weeks from today on August 4th. They generally kick off at about 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5 o'clock. It says 4:30 there, but it's a soft start. And then the first Friday in September is we're celebrating on September 8th.
Yes, sir.
Because September 1st is the Friday of a 4-day weekend for the federal holiday. So that is not officially a First Friday. You would have to put air quotes around that. But so Chief, something at this First Friday, gosh, in 50 minutes is
Yeah.
pretty exciting. We haven't done in at least my entire affiliation with Edwards. So you want to talk about what we're doing at 4:30 at the club?
Yeah, 16:30, 4:30 p.m. today. We're going to do a ribbon cutting for Fogelman's Lounge. If you haven't seen it yet, I got a sneak peek last week. Probably shouldn't have, but I poked my head in there just to check it out and see how
Who's
it's
going
going.
to tell you no?
Yeah, it was interesting, right? With both hats on. So they were like, come on, Chief, check it out. But we're going to do a ribbon cutting for the remodel project over there. I don't want to ruin the surprise for anybody, but you're going to walk in and you'll recognize the space. But as you look up, down, and around, and towards the bar area, you're going to say, wow.
That's
so
cool.
come on out.
4:30 if you want us to see, cut the ribbon, and then First Friday's around starting at that time. 2-ish hours is what they advertise, but usually lasts a little longer.
Yes, sir.
And come say hi to the friends, family, and neighbors there.
And if you're an
Sure.
FSS Insider, used to be formerly called Club Member, they have free appetizers and stuff for you there. So come check it out.
All right, so we're going to flip to one more paint and wine advertisement for FSS, and then we'll hit the last slide as well, which is, so there we go. Another FSS event, I believe it's at the club, and there's dates. One of them is tonight. Another one is 2 weeks from now. There's a couple in August, 2 in September. It's $25. I have enjoyed the one experience. That's horrible English. My experience in a let's go have a glass of wine and create art was really cool. It was painting. It was art. We were all trying to generate while the professional artist was just crushing it in front of us,
Yeah, right.
trying to generate a picture of the X1 over the lake bed.
that'd
And
be
I spent
cool.
all my time drawing Joshua trees and a little yellow Jeep. But you've seen that in my office.
Yes,
but
sir.
that's that kind of experience there. Those are good social events. Show up by yourself. You have a great time. Show up and bring a couple friends. It'll be even better. Also at the club.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then the last slide we have here is, hey, remember I said Air Force Ball, they had their Apple Nachos. They're raising money to lower prices for everyone.
Yes.
It is September 16th this year, so save the date, September 16th.
That's right.
2023. Hollywood Glam. I'm not sure what Hollywood Glam theme is because I always wear the same thing, which is my mess dress, which is just fine. But that's what the event is. The committee's literally hitting solid doubles and triples at all the events they've had, to include, like I said, Summer Bash earlier this week. All right, there it is. Okay, while Chief and I were talking you through those FSS ads, we had a couple other top-notch professionals join us here. 2 folks from the security forces also here to talk about a couple items. We've got some charts on that we can show, but more importantly, we're going to talk about DBIDS access or base access for civilian retirees.
Sure.
And so I'll tee it up, and it surfaced in this forum a while ago. Somebody typed in or texted in a question. Hey, why is the Air Force revoking access for civilian retirees to the base? And the answer is that person had bad gouge because there was no revocation of access. There has never been revocation of access for DoD retirees. You're a proud member of our community for the rest of your life, and a continued member of our Air Force family if you're a retired Air Force member, a civilian. especially if you retired from Edwards. So what changed is that earlier this year, the Deputy Secretary of Defense said, we're no longer going to issue DoD retiree identification cards because, and now I kick it over to security forces, because there's a better way. So
Yes, sir.
go ahead, gents, and introduce yourselves too.
Yes, sir. I'm Captain Alex Johnson. I'm from the Security Forces Squadron. I'm the operations officer.
And I'm Tech Sergeant Beck. I'm the NCYC of Installation Access. I primarily control the Pass ID and Visitor Center.
Sweet. So we have the right to SMEs here because of that question, and we're going to walk you quickly through what they pitched to me, and I said, sounds like a great plan, press.
Yes, sir.
So what, minute or so a slide, this one's already briefed.
Yes, sir.
And I'll let you talk to the rest. Folks, if you have questions, let us know. But so I've already teed up the first. Hey, as of February of this year, the Deputy Secretary of Defense said, we're not going to issue any more cards. So my first question that's kind of covered in this chart is, what if I have one?
Yes, sir. If you have any of the type identification that's on the slide right now, it doesn't do anything towards your access. You're still able to access the installation just like normal.
Yeah, and if I have a DoD retiree card, it's good through the expiration date.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so they're not null and void. We're not revoking access. It's just we're not issuing new ones.
Yes, sir.
As of earlier this year. Okay, so anything else you want to talk through on this chart there, Sergeant Beck or Captain Johnson?
No, sir. You hit the nail on the head. So the thing is that no one has lost their access. It's just the process by which you will gain access is what will change, and we'll deep dive that here in the next few slides.
Okay, so so one of the examples for many civilian retirees also have base access or base affiliation is what the defenders would call it to me for another reasons. So maybe they're a government civilian and therefore they have a civilian ID. I'm sorry, if they're a retired civilian, they don't have that anymore. Maybe they're a military retiree or a military dependent. Mm-hmm. That would be another reason, or they have some other type of identification that gets them onto the installation. Yeah. So those are examples on the right. Let's go to the next chart. Can you talk real quick about, I can't spell DBIDS. I don't know exactly what it is, but can you also then talk about Real ID?
Yes, sir. So the DBID stands for the Defense Biometrics Identification System, and that's the interface that defenders use in order to verify that you have a valid DoD type credential. There are other credentials that could be logged into DBIDs, and we'll deep dive that here in a second, but an example is like veterans identification cards. Those can be manually logged into DBIDs. And then in order to get our DoD retiree civilians continued access to the installation, what they'll need to do is use a Real Act identification card that's shown in the example here. The way that you can determine that on a driver's license is you can see that it has a gold star in the top right-hand corner, and that's for all 50 states. So the requirement is that you must have a Real Act ID compliant identification to enroll it into DBIDs. So you could either do that with a driver's license or you could do that with a US passport. Wow. So it should be relatively easy. And in order to do that, you simply will just bring your retirement SF50 to either pass an ID, or you can bring it to the Visitor Control Center. Either or works for us. If for whatever reason you don't have a Real Act ID, then we'll proceed to option 2 for a period of 1 year to try to give the base as much leeway as we can, because at the end of the day, we do eventually have to meet the federal requirement. But we also don't want to immediately shut off access because someone doesn't currently possess a Real Act ID compliant.
Yeah, so let me ask you a couple of questions that some of them are ones that I have myself, but others that I've received. So I want to make sure that everybody hears it clear. If you have a Real ID compliant identification, and generally that's going to be your driver's license. Mine is not in my wallet or not in my pocket right now, or I wouldn't show my whole ID, but I could show the star on the corner of my Idaho driver's license. So that's how you know yours is Real ID Act compliant. If you are a DoD retiree, you take that ID and your SF, and that SF50 to pass an ID or to one of the visitor control centers, sure. And they will register you in DBIDs so that you don't have to go to visitor control anymore.
Sure.
Yep, and DBIDs, the way we interface with DBIDs, it's those handheld scanners
yes, sir.
that
yes,
the
sir.
defenders use at the gates,
yes,
correct?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I did not know, so check the box, learn something today. Passport card or actual passport book, same thing?
Sure, yes, they're both Real Act ID compliant, sir, so either or can be enrolled into DBIDs.
And they can scan the passports or
yes,
the
sir.
passport cards? Fantastic. Yeah. That's really cool, by the way. Okay, so I like the passport card a lot because it gives me a second form of identification when somebody asks for 2. So there's something that you can get even if you can't get your California Real ID compliant driver's license, which California's pushing the deadline for implementation for reasons I won't get into, but those are other options for you as well. Many of you that are DoD retirees probably have a passport that hasn't expired, a blue passport or a passport ID card as well. So that's cool. Any other thoughts on this slide before we go to the next one?
And then just to emphasize, sir, for our DoD civilian retirees, for squadron commanders and civilian directors on their SF-50, we just need clear verbiage that you want your civilian retiree to maintain their base access and retired status. So that way it tells us as security forces, okay, make the DBIDS profile.
And what if somebody has retired either from another base or they had a different policy or guidance, or somebody retired and that isn't on their SF-50? They're still eligible.
Yes, sir.
But that's up to the installation commander.
That is, yes, sir. So
Right.
the DoD memorandum that states that installation commanders can create the policy for which civilian retirees will have access, and you have granted access to all DoD civilian retirees as long as they have a DBIDS profile. So it doesn't matter if you retire from LA Air Station or whatnot. You will be given access to the base.
Yeah, Navy Yards in the Washington, D.C. area on the Potomac River. If you're a civilian retiree from there, and you've decided enough of the water, enough of the humidity, and you move out here and you want to join the community on Edwards Air Force Base, you are welcome to. This installation commander has said you are welcome to be a part of our community. Register your IDs and you're welcome to join.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there are some facts and I read about 6 on the next chart. Let's
sir.
get to those real fast. You've already talked about bullet number 1.
Sure.
California has said 2025. Sergeant Beck, you want to guess when in 2025, or do you have a prediction on that
From the
for
website?
state of California?
From the website, sir, it says May 2025.
May of 25.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Like all programs, they tend to not go early.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I will not tell you what we've done a gentleman's wager on the side
Yes, sir.
for on that, but. If you renew your driver's license between now and 25 in California, by definition, it becomes a Real ID compliant. There's a huge backlog of driver's license renewals because of the COVID complications.
Yes, sir.
In that, so that is why there's a lot of pressure on that date for California. So the third bullet there, that was a decision I made. Hey, if you don't have, for whatever reason, you don't have a Real ID compliant card, but you are a retiree. You can bring your SF-50 to security forces, and security forces will issue you a DBIDS card.
Yes, sir.
And that will expire in June of. So bring it now, and we'll issue you that out to get hopefully to the Real ID compliant date for California. And we're within a year of that window right now, and we can issue DBIDS cards for up to a year.
Yes, sir.
And so that's up to Sergeant Beck and his team's discretion on how far out they need to go, and I've given them the authorities to go beyond the California Real ID Act implementation date.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't have one, you can come get a DBIDS card. It will have an expiration at the 1-year mark. Don't plan to renew that. And so that's what that third bullet's there. Sergeant Beck, anything else you want to pile on that? Or correct me 100% on?
Oh, no, you're perfectly correct, sir. I don't have anything else to add on that one.
Okay. The fourth bullet is you can only get the DBIDS card, unlike registering your Real ID compliant at the gates. You can't get a card at other than Building 3000 and pass an ID.
Yes,
True?
sir. Visitor center, when you go up there, same thing, or the only differences between the two is that the pass an ID, you do need to schedule an appointment.
Okay.
Because their primary responsibility is the restricted area badges. So if you go up to the visitor center, no appointment is needed. But if you do want to try to make an appointment with pass an ID, I did want to provide the number if possible. It's 661-277-6263. You can just call there. They'll make an appointment. Typically, it takes maybe a week or two, depending on how many restricted area badges they have to focus on. But if you go up to the visitor center, no appointment is needed. They'll be able to take care of you right there and then.
76263.
Yes, sir.
Yep, sweet. My question, I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. If I need a DBIDS card, I have to get that from Pass an ID in Building 3000, correct?
No, you can also get it at visitor center as well, sir.
They can issue DBIDS cards
Yes, sir.
at any of the gates in the
No,
visitor center?
just the visitor center.
Just Westgate?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, go back to the chart, please. And there's the number, 277-6263. All right, 5 minutes for a card. That assumes there's no backlog. Remember that you might not be the priority.
Yes, sir.
Because restricted area badges are the backlog there. And that's what a RAB is. All right, And the last bullet there, I think, is kind of more for Chief, but if you're a retiree that's in D-bids, you're allowed MWR access as if you were a dependent or a dependent retiree.
That's right, yes, sir.
And that's a big advantage.
It is.
There are a lot of things that are open to the community here. Some of them you have to pay a little bit to get to, but many of them are free.
Yes, sir.
And so access to the pool would be an example of
the
that.
pool's a perfect example. That's free, and it's something that it's hard to find in some places, depending on where you live.
Yes, and so if you like swimming and you're a retiree and you're on base for whatever reason anyway, good to go there. There are some limitations, so if you have any questions, you can talk to security forces, you can talk to the mission support group.
Yes, sir.
While you're in building 3000 and you're looking at the security forces pass and ID section, if you turn 90 degrees left, there's a desk there that's the Retiree Affairs Office or Retiree Affairs Desk. That is not manned 24/7, 365, but right there's where you can find information out on what's available to retirees.
Yes, sir.
And it's retirees, it's not military retirees. So it would be DoD retirees as well. If they don't have an answer to your question, they can certainly find it out for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before we answer the question on the screen, gents, anything else you want to push on this topic? By the way, I think this is an exceptional implementation.
Thanks,
and,
sir.
and it's a great example of how when somebody asks something in this forum,
Yeah.
we actually learn a lot and we find better implementations and better solutions for everybody. So what have we missed that you would want to throw out on this topic?
I don't have anything there.
I don't have anything, sir.
Nothing? Okay, here's the tough question I got.
Yes.
So I got my driver's license and it's Real ID compliant, and I drive up to the gate and they've got the clipboard,
Yes, sir.
which means D-bids is down.
Yes, sir.
Now what?
So what I would say, sir, if a retiree finds himself in that situation, what we do have the ability to do is we can go on the computer that's inside the gate shack, and we can actually pull up their DBIDS profile on a computer.
Okay.
So then what we would do is we would just manually log in the time, the date that they entered the installation, and then they would be granted installation access. So
Sweet.
we're not completely reliant on the scanners. We optimize them, but we're not completely reliant on them.
Yeah, and I would say, I don't know, Chief, what your experience has been. Mine is probably 8 or 9 times out of 10 that I drive through the gates here, the scanners are working. And yes, the answer is yes, they scan my ID card too, as they should. And more than half the time I get offered a post brief, and about half the time I say, that'll be awesome. And it's always impressive. I guess the point is, if you are registered in D-bids and the scanner's down and you don't have an ID card that would by itself allow you base access, which your driver's license doesn't, your passport doesn't, they can still take that. Hey, I'm registered, I'm a retiree. They'll probably ask you, can you move off to the side? We'll go check real fast, and they'll come back and say, enjoy your stay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That means people don't have to carry their SF-50s around
Correct,
with
sir.
them,
Yes, sir.
and that's a bonus. Is that worth having around in your car or whatever, or is it not necessary once you're registered?
I wouldn't recommend it, sir. So your SF-50 also contains lots of PII information. So obviously we don't want that to get out unnecessarily. So once you are registered in D-bids, you'll be good to go. Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
All right. Yeah.
Chief, what else you got for your defenders?
It sounds like a fair system, and like you were saying, sir, the question was posed here, and it's honoring the service that our airmen, that don't wear this uniform, that wear civilian uniform, honoring their service and allowing them access to the world they probably contributed to for a long time.
Oh, heck yeah.
So,
So the alignment, the unfortunate alignment of these events are that the day that rumor popped was the day one of our squadrons was christening their new heritage room. And that squadron was a civilian intense squadron.
Yes,
and
sir.
so a lot of those folks heard through the rumor mill that you're going to get turned right at the gate, don't even bother driving the 30 minutes out. And so the squadron commander decided we're going to move out on the ceremony anyway, but it wasn't as well attended as it probably could have been.
Yes, sir.
That hurt.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's somebody I worked very closely with that was an alum of that squadron, and he was also disappointed in that alignment. My point is, we've all learned from that date,
Yes, sir.
that moment. Tremendous work by Captain Johnson, Sergeant Beck, and the rest of the team here to make sure this happens. So, okay. Defenders, thanks.
Yes.
Thanks for
Thank you,
bringing
sir.
it strong today. You got a great wow that's off camera right now. Again, good
That's
to
right.
meet you. I appreciate you guys, and have a great Friday. There's a question on the screen. What's it like to hear Sonic Boom for the first time? I don't know,
a good
Chief.
question.
What was it? What was it like for you to hear the Sonic Boom for the first time?
I accidentally kind of, mixed it up with maybe like an explosion. because I had been around a lot of explosions with previous deployments and stuff. So it kind of took me back a little bit. But then I think, like we were talking before, you get inoculated to them. It kind of just, it's a sonic boom again. The first time, wasn't the first, maybe second or third, I was unpacking stuff in my garage. And the garage just resonates differently, right? And the doors moved a little bit. It was a good one. They must have been pretty close. I don't know about all the dynamics of sonic booms. But it shook the doors, and I actually stopped for a minute. I was like, whoa, what was that, right? So it can get you the first time.
Yeah, so I grew up in southern Idaho. I'm a 70 baby, and so by the time I'm a teenager, it's early to mid 80s. At the time, Mountain Home had a wing that flew F-111s.
Oh, yeah.
And so I grew up with sonic booms, not nearly as often as happened now here at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe, and not nearly as powerful as the ones that we often get here based on where the supersonic corridor is directly above where we're sitting now. But I did grow up around them. So I guess by the time I got to Edwards 20 years ago, I candidly, I don't remember as a student. I was a student 20 years ago at TPS. I don't remember any holy cow event.
Yeah.
But like I told you earlier today, I was in my desk at my office, boom, and there's usually two.
Yeah.
And you can ask my replacement, the professor in aerospace engineering, why there's two when it's only one airplane. I have an estimate, but he can actually tell you why, including all the physics and the math behind it. So make sure you ask Colonel Wickert that.
Yes, sir.
So they still mean a lot to me. One example that I think is really unique here, not really, it is unique. We have the ability to boom the base. And that's just not common.
It's not normal.
You
No.
can have people fly supersonic right over the base, and there are ways that we have learned over time, and the physics backs this up for the shock waves to propagate to get to the right location at a fairly precise time. It's kind of hard to predict within a second or two, but certainly within tens of seconds, really easy. And that's pretty awesome. So much so that generally speaking, for change of command ceremonies at every other base I've ever been stationed at, literally, for group level and above, and sometimes even for squadron level changes of command, we declare quiet hours on the installation.
Yes, sir.
So no engines running, no airplanes in the pattern, certainly no sonic booms. And at this location, we say not only let's have some noise, but we kind of relish it during the ceremony.
Yeah, let's time it with it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes,
I get asked, wing change command is going to be 18 August, and we were doing the planning. Somebody said, would you like to do quiet hours? I'm like, not only would I don't want quiet hours. If I have to stop my remarks because an airplane's taking off an afterburner, let's relish that.
Yes, sir.
Because I cannot say anything more powerful than the sound of freedom from one of our great aircraft here at Edwards.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Nicole, I am not taking that bait. She's laughing off camera. As much as I enjoy working with you, I would like to keep my marriage alive and healthy. So I am not taking you up on that. All right.
I am not either.
Good.
Yes,
Well
sir.
done, Chief. Folks, today's Friday the 7th of July, 2023. Next week is a special broadcast. Chief, you want to talk about what that one is, where it is, and what we have in store for folks next week?
Yes, sir. We're going to be live from Club Muroc with the Tech Sergeant release. So we're going to, bring across some folks who made one of the more difficult rinks to make, I think. If you look statistically across our Air Force, tech's hard to make. So we're going to bring them across the stage and celebrate them. And then we're going to bring a few of them back, I think, just with me. And we're going to have a little chat, about what's next and what the future looks like and how they feel about getting to where they got. So, tune in next week, celebrate your friends, neighbors, colleagues, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, the tech release party is generally sponsored by the 5-6 Club.
Yes, sir.
Also, a couple officers in the 5-6 private org will be there to talk with Chief about what's it like to be a leader of leaders or a leader within in the 5-6 Club as they sponsor the ceremony and then get a chance to talk on camera with Chief Swiss, and he's going to pull in a few maybe unsuspecting selects.
See if we can pull them free.
We'll get them, break them out of their celebration. But that's next week on the 14th of July. It'll be the same location, same URLs, same time, 1500 every duty day Friday Pacific. Broadcasting from somewhere in and around the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. Chief, any sign-off thoughts?
No, sir, everybody have a great weekend. It was a short week, but it sure felt like a long one. And thanks for what you do out there. it's vitally important to our nation and our nation's security. And we appreciate you.
Yes, right back at, I'll second that. We greatly appreciate everything you do. And that goes from Carlo that's floating around just on the backside of the screen here, giving me, watch out for this, look at this camera, to the folks in the PA booth, to the folks that are here in the PA studios and in the building, not the least of which is the new chief of PA here. I'll tell you, the Media Fusion team, they crushed it
Yes, sir.
on Monday, and they almost always absolutely dominate the events, and they're always exceptional. And then everybody else in the PA enterprise, and then we could just promulgate out from that for how much we appreciate everything you're doing, contributing to mission here at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. And with that, folks, I'm going to wish you a great Friday. Have a safe, it's going to be hot, drink
Yes.
plenty of water,
Hydrate,
stay in the
hydrate.
shade. Yes, have a safe weekend, and we'll see you here next Friday at Edwards Air Force Base, the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.